I interviewed my soccer coach, Jim McNitt. In the 60s, Jim went to New Trier High School. This is a newspaper Jim kept from the 1960s when the West Campus opened. This is just one of the articles that discusses why New Trier is such a good school and why making this other campus was such a big bargain. Jim played 3 sports in high school: basketball, soccer, and baseball. He went on to Amherst and played all 3 there. He later got drafted and played on the Cubs. What was growing up in the 60s like to you?
Growing up in the 60s was a particular interesting decade for all of us, because coming out of the 50s, the United States, everything was stable, the economy was good, and everything was pretty darn good in the country. And then suddenly in 1962, all of our lives, whether you were a 7th grader like me, okay, at Skokie Junior High School, or an adult, President Kennedy now gets shot, actually in '63, and that just shattered everybody's perception and image of what the country was like, that in fact an event like that could even occur, that somebody from outside the country could come in and actually shoot your president. And I remember being in social studies class, and at 12 noon somebody poked their head in the classroom and said, "President Kennedy's been shot." And we all just froze. We all just froze. We could not believe that our lives, as he portrayed it, and he was a very charismatic person and represented, again, the stability of the country, and a progressive country, you know, in that time for us. And it changed everything, because and I'll never forget being walked out of student council at New Trier in the fall of 1968, because I asked many times, why couldn't girls play on sports teams?
Really?
Because we had all the boys sports teams, and I played 3 sports at New Trier, played soccer in the fall and basketball in the winter and baseball in the spring. And my friends, girls who were my friends, okay, could play club tennis, okay? And the girl athletes at the time, their sport, if they made it, and it was very selective, was cheerleading, which was fine. God bless them, and they were cute girls. I dated one of them. But there wasn't equal sports. Like, why not? They should have equal rights. And kids in the Deep South should be able to go to any college they wanted, just regardless of the color of their skin. And it was...
So you wouldn't say that you were racist at all during high school? Or
No,
your parents?
No, for me, not at all. Again,
Yeah.
grew up in a house of parents where, you know, equality for everybody was important. And that's, you know, the way they raised us. But we were raised to respect everybody.
Everyone.
It just didn't, it was what, and you know this, Jackie, it's what's inside you that counts, not what you
The
look
appearance.
like. But it didn't mean you didn't have feelings and beliefs, okay, in certain things. And again, the 60s was more than anything about people asking why. Why can't things change? Why do they have to be the way they are?
The Rolling Stones are an English rock band formed in London in 1962. In the 60s, they were received as symbols of rebellious youth.
Okay, my parents grew up, I mean, didn't have sex until you were married, right? And that was for children. But this was very different.
Yeah. Would you say the Beatles started that, or were there other artists that also were really...
Clearly,
Yeah.
many other artists, because you always get a diversity of artists. If you had them and they were clean and fun, and then you had the bad boys, the Rolling Stones. Okay,
Yeah.
They're the bad boys of rock and roll, and their subject matter, was a little bit
more
you didn't want to
explicit.
listen to that in front of your mom and dad. kind of stuff, but they still tapped into you, both at the energy, can't get no satisfaction. I mean, it was too cool for school, and you loved it.
The Vietnam War was the prolonged struggle between nationalist forces attempting to unify the country of Vietnam under a communist government and the United States attempting to prevent the spread of communism. Were you against the Vietnam War?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was. And again, I understood as best I could. I mean, you're talking, you're 17, 18 years old. I mean, you understand strategically why the United States had to go defend that part of the world, okay? Because at that time, what was called, Russia and communist Russia and China was a big influence, and they were our number one enemy at that particular time. And if they kept eating up land, if they kept taking over countries, they were going to start getting strategic holds in parts of the world. And so you saw, you understood in your head what was going to happen, but could not understand how an 18-year-old could go over there and get slaughtered in somebody else's field, okay? And we were, and it's in retrospect, we did not prepare for that kind of country that was very hot and very swampy and wooded. We could not fight that fight.